For more analysis on China's economic data, let's speak to Liu Ligang, Chief China Economist of Citigroup. Thank you for joining us. Because of the pandemic influenced last year's economy, so Statistics Bureau released the two-year average data, which is more relevant, easy to understand. And the two-year average GDP growth of China in the first quarter was 5%. How do you evaluate this growth rate?
Yeah, I think this is quite a novel way to adjust for the base effect. We know that last year in the first quarter, China's GDP growth was minus 6.8%. So by averaging these two numbers, the 5% means that China's growth has hit the lower bound of its potential GDP growth. And we think that China's potential GDP growth at this moment is 5 to 6%, and in the coming quarters, growth momentum could slow somewhat in Q2. But our calculations suggest that from Q3 onward, China's growth could rebound sequentially a bit.
Right. Farming, manufacturing and services sectors achieved two-year average growth of 3.4%, 6.8% and 10% respectively. What's your take on their growth?
Yeah, we think that they are now in the normal range. We also think that China's service sector still has more potential to grow faster. The main reason is that if China can keep the current vaccination ratio at the daily around 5 million people, perhaps by end of Q2, the country could easily achieve 40% of the population who have got the first jab. So that will be a very good news for China's service sector. Recovery and services consumption will continue to lead China's growth this year. Overall, we are quite confident that out of our current 8.8% GDP growth, 6.2% percentage points will be contributed from China's consumption sector.
Right. Talk about consumption. Online shopping sales volume has risen to nearly 22% of China's overall retail sales, partly boosted by the pandemic. Is there any further growth room for e-commerce in China?
Well, the room will be there. And we think that given the current pace of growth, e-commerce in China's total retail sales could continue to grow to say, 30 or 40%. The issue is, down the road, how we make this kind of online shopping a healthy one. That is, recently we have seen the government is going to check the monopoly of those e-commerce platforms. We think that some of the policies perhaps will slow online shopping if those platforms can no longer lend as much consumer credit to those younger generation folks as easy as possible in the past. So, while this could be a potential obstacle, but the future for China's online shopping look very bright. In fact, by checking the monopoly, it could also encourage competition. More newcomers will help drive China's e-commerce industry.
Chinese believe that science and technology is number one, productivity. What are some key tech applications you're spotting that can help further develop China's economy?
Well, I think perhaps the most obvious one is 5G and its adoption in not only commercial sector, but also in the industrial sector, especially if China can use 5G for its industrialization, internet plus type of technology can further accelerate China's labor productivity, and by doing so, growth potential will be there. And obviously, China should also invest more on basic science and research and development. By doing so, China could also become the key innovators among the major countries in the world.
Last, I'd like to talk a little bit about the challenge of aging society. Numbers of newly married couples in China, newborn babies in the country are dropping sharply. We're talking about some 30 to 40% in the past 6 to 7 years, threatening the sustainable growth of China's future economy. What are some of the solutions, in your opinion?
Yeah, there are some short-term and long-term solutions for this quite structural issue. Not only in China, but also in most of the Asian economies as well. Number one, I think the government can easily announce that average family can have 3 kids, removing this limit to only 2 children at this moment. The other issue is whether the government can work harder to provide affordable housing to young couples who enter in large city to work. And housing appear to be a major issue that has been delaying their marriage. Thirdly, China could make its education rather affordable, especially try to expand the supply of high quality schools in not only large cities, but also second or third tier cities. By doing so, that will encourage young couples to have more kids. In addition, I think to address China's aging problem, maybe the government could expand this retirement age from the currently only 60 years old for men, 55 years for women. If you compare this number with developed countries, China has great potential to raise the retirement age to say 65 or even higher. And so these are the short-term policy China could adopt, and those policies could have quite important implication for China's growth in the next decade or so. In addition, I think China needs to look at its structural issue and also treat this aging trend as what it is, and try to think about innovative solutions to take advantage of China's aging population. In fact, there's a lot of economic activities, even growth could be drawn from tapping this large group of aging population.
Great. Great to have your insight, Mr. Liu Ligang, Chief China Economist of Citigroup, join us from Hong Kong. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, net profits of central SOEs came in about 415 billion yuan, about $64 billion for the first quarter of this year. Companies' operating revenue registered a 30% year-on-year jump to about 8 trillion yuan. More than 80% of firms maintained double-digit growth, while sectors like automobile and construction saw revenues increase over 50%. Officials say companies' debt-paying ability have also been enhanced, and they say they contribute significantly to taxes and fees.